live. Hey, gang, your saltwater guy, Captain Dave Hansen. I got my good buddy Roy Rose here. We're going to have a hell of a show. Well, basically, Roy and I are going to talk about fishing, and you guys are all going to listen in on it. Pretty much is how it's going to go here. We're a couple of weirdos. We're a couple of old men that think that every single fish is ours, and we're going to talk about that. And it's going to be a phenomenal show. So kick back, relax, and get ready for one of my best podcasts. Last time we had Roy on here, it was the most watched podcast that I've ever had. So I'm super excited that your beautiful wife got us back together again. She's been working hard to make this happen. So I'm super excited to have you here. Gang, real quick though, it's Promar Ahi USA Tuesday. We always talk about Promar products on Tuesday. Today's no exception. We'll be talking Promar products. I'll be showing you that GT4 fluorocarbon. You got, today is the very last day that you're going to be able to save 15%. That's it. Tomorrow's a new year, gang. Everything changes tomorrow. Also, all my clothing goes back to normal price tomorrow. Promar goes back to normal price tomorrow. We'll throw the QR code up on the screen throughout the show. You can save 15% till midnight tonight, and then that's that. And you'll all go, shoot, I should have taken advantage of it, because you're gonna need your Promar equipment. And this is the year of the anchovy. Roy and I will talk about this cold water. We'll talk about everything that we grew up. The two of us grew up fishing with anchovies, and if you wanted a big bait, you had to catch a big bait. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about a lot of stuff today, gang. So Promar, thank you very much for being a sponsor of our Monday and Tuesday shows. We really appreciate you, gang. I'm throwing the QR code up there before we get started. Those of you that want to grab that QR code anytime you want, save 50% on the product. And where are you?
I had to get my Promar net. I had to show you.
There you go, gang.
I just got that for the kids.
There you go.
That's the anchovy
Yes,
net.
it is. And you guys are going to be on the beach scooping fish tonight, huh?
Oh yeah, we're gonna run around there and let them have at it. We've been getting clams the last couple nights, and there's always been little fish swimming around. So tonight we'll let them bring their little nets.
All right, you got to make me some videos with the kids scooping it up with the Promar net.
There you go.
Just like
yeah, they caught a halibut last night, about 3 inches long, and a few little fingerling mullet. Don't ask me how, but they got them.
Perfect. That's good bait right there. Gang, check it out. Go to the Promar site. You'll see that net Roy's holding and a zillion other products. You have no idea you're using Promar products every single day, and you don't even know it. So we'll be showing you some more videos about Promar in a little bit. But hey, Roy, you and I went through your life and how you got into this fishing thing on the first podcast. Right now, though, I think what we're about to enter into, this 2025, is something you and I should be talking about instead of how you got into fishing, because everybody knows you got into it when you were a little kid. And if you watch the old podcast, you'll know. But Roy, look at this water. We haven't seen this water in Southern California since 2014. This anchovy, it's in all the bait barges again. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of exciting because I love to fish with anchovies. I have a bunch of long, soft rods, 196 7s and stuff. I got a bunch of reels I can cast chovies with. And everything loves to eat anchovy, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's funny when you put them in the hammock for someone, you point out and say, hey, put that thing on, and they look at you like you're crazy. I'm not going to be able, half the time is, I won't be able to cast that. It's like, you know what? I totally forgot. You're new to this.
Right. Well, now you've been in this long range thing for a very long time. Back 35 years ago, when you first started working in the long range industry, all you guys had, and all we all had, was anchovies for bait. So you had to spend a day or two just catching bait to fish that big yellowfin and that big tuna down below, right?
Yes, we'd have to spend at least a couple of days and tank up. You bring anchovies to start with, and then whether you had to go fish greenies along the coast for any length of trip, you'd have to go into Assumption, Cedros, whatever, wherever, and try and load up on little green mackerel, soap bars up to 10 inches, whatever, just to have bigger bait to fish for the yellows. And then on the longer trips, you'd go by San Benedicto, Socorro, when it was open, and tank up on caballitos, and then fish with those things.
So explain to everybody what it was like back in those days. It was mandatory that you got your butt out of bed and got out on the rail to catch bait, right?
Yes, it was. If you didn't catch the bait, if you didn't help make the bait, it's obvious you didn't get to use the bait. And that holds true, at least any boat that I've ever been on or that will be in driving. You don't want to use a bigger bait. You need to be up to make the bigger bait, because the last thing you want to hear all day long is, that guy didn't make any bait. Why does he get to use it? It's like, well, you know what? You're right. You don't make it, you don't get to use it. It's that simple.
And now, when I was doing it, I didn't do the long range thing, but we were doing 2 and 3 day trips. We would mark your hand with a permanent marker. If you were up making bait, you got a mark on your hand. If you weren't, you got up in the morning, no mark on your hand, no mackerel for you.
That's pretty good. No, I didn't know about the marking deal, but no, we have there's several different ways, but for the most part, people are pretty good at ratting each other out on who made bait and who didn't. That's very apparent, because they know exactly. I mean, you got guys that'll walk around. Hey, there's only 29 people out here. There's supposed to be 36, and then, oh, that's so and so. He's down in the room, or whatever. Oh, he's sick, or it's like whatever. Like I said, we're all
Yeah,
adults.
exactly.
You want to use the bigger bait, you need to come out and make it. It's super simple.
And the anchovy cycle that it looks like we're going back into, because I talked to a lot of divers. They say that water's 50 degrees on the bottom and 52 degrees on the top. It goes all the way to the bottom, which we haven't seen for 10 years up here in Southern California. And that cold water runs all the way down below Descanso. It's pretty dang cold in the mid to low 50s, and then you get down below it. I don't think it starts to warm up till you get below Mag Bay, and then there's a little 71, 72 degree water down here where we're at. But it looks to me like we're in a cold water cycle, which maybe we'll get to see those fish you and I grew up on and made a whole bunch of money fishing for.
Yeah, right. That'd be nice for them to come back. I know they got a couple of them this year. Maybe, I don't know how many they caught this year. A couple handfuls of them, but hopefully they come back. And usually when they come back, it's like they never left. It's like, damn, where'd they all come from? It's like there's millions of them in the water.
Yeah, let's talk about that fish for a little bit, gang. There's a whole bunch of you that are superstar charter boat captains right now. You're the bluefin guys, because bluefin are good, easy to catch when they're biting. It's fun. But this albacore, it makes you all look phenomenal, because they actually find you a lot of times on accident. You got some lures out the back, you got that sonar spinning, you think you're dialed in, all of a sudden hook up and you got 100 fish jig strike. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild fishing, right? A lot of these guys have never seen it. I know a lot of captains that have seen them in pictures. They've never even seen a live one. It's pretty wild, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's funny you say that, because I have the same thing. I go, what about this albacore? I go, it's real. They do exist. I go, we used to catch them by the hundreds at a stops, and not just one here, one there. And like you said, they get on you, and sometimes it's one stop. You got your limits, and you're off looking. Then you would go look for the bluefin, because they were such a pain in the butt to get the bites. That was something to do. That was like your trophy hunt, your trophy part of the deal, depending on the length of your trip.
Yeah, and then you had the handful of guys up there on the bow that every time you got stopped on the albacore, they were dropping those chrome jigs down there 150, 200 feet, getting their bluefin. Those guys, they were doing it, man. Those guys that knew how to fish the Salis and the Tatty, when the boat would stop, they would wait until it quit sliding forward, and then they drop those jigs down and catch a bluefin under the albacore. What a fun time to grow up, right?
Oh yeah, very fun. A lot of fun. It's a lot of like you said, you could just troll. I mean, you'd be out there, you'd see guys out there in little aluminum boats trolling around, getting You know, they don't have a sonar. They probably don't have an up and down meter, but they're out there trolling around getting albacore coming in. I remember this one time seeing this guy. He had like a ski boat, and he came into the boat rental, and like the thing had like maybe 6 inches of freeboard, and it was just covered in albacore. Like they got him right out to like the 9 Mile bank or something. I was just a little kid on the dock running around, and this thing's just covered in blood. Like this dude had no. It's like he was fishing out of a Stringari skiff, which was the skiff back then, and but there was no regard for the windshield or the. It was just covered in blood, and like there's about 20 albacores. Like I don't even know how the guy got back. I mean, if it got in, if he had 15 knots of wind, he would have never made it home. There was so much fish, and it would have just been taken on water.
Right, right. And don't thinking back to the straight sardines in the bait tank, didn't you think this is what my thought process was? And maybe you got a better idea because you're down there in San Diego all the time. Didn't you think if we do find this albacore, it's going to be tough to get them to eat this 8-inch sardine?
Well, I would think we were so used to having anchovies. I mean, you'd sit there and every time we get a strike, my dad would say, "Okay, start throwing handfuls of bait back in the wake," and they start boiling up, and then you're just feeding them. You look in the tank, and you got a tank of sardines. Like, man, there's not very many fish in there
Right,
compared to having, let's say, there's 4,000 anchovies in the bait tank as opposed to 500 sardines in the bait tank. You know what I mean?
right.
But we made it work. It's like, yeah, they'll be all right. Just throw them out there, and like I remember Loomis. He would tell me people always talk about these sardines being too big. He goes, they know what to do with it. You throw it out there and you just keep one at a time on that corner. You got 30 guys changing their bait. You don't really have to chum that much. Just keep them around the boat basically.
Right. Yeah.
And every one that goes in with a hook and it's a fish basically.
Yeah, they are a fun fish to catch, and they get real stupid real fast, gang. It's an amazing thing. I know Roy's seen it a bunch of times. I've seen they bite the lift pole in the corner. It's like it's fun to watch big giant buff guys go down to their knees with they want to see the lift pole. And I was 130 pounds dripping wet with all my clothes on, but it was technique, as you know. And then the guy would go, "Here, let me try that." You go, "Okay, don't let go of the rod, though. Do not let go of the rod." "What do you mean, don't let go?" The guy's on his knees, pinned in the corner, can't get the lift pole off the rail. It was so fun back in those days. Oh my gosh.
Shoot.
Well, remember when we were kids, though, if you let that rod touch the rail, what did they call you?
No, now that you mention, no, nobody ever really let the rod touch the rail.
Never.
They call you a cheater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the word that most captains I work for, it started with a P and ended with a Y. And if you got that rod touching the rail, but now you go on the Royal Star and you look, you're in a stop, you got 20 fish hanging, every guy's on his knees like a rat eating cheese, right?
Yeah, or we got to teach them technique. But yeah, it's a lot easier now with these 2 speeds messing with these bluefin and stuff, using the rail. It is a lot easier.
Yeah, it's funny how it changed, and it's okay to let the rod touch the rail. Now they build rail rods. Never in our wildest
Yeah,
imagination did we
exactly.
ever think you'd want a rod that touched the rail. That's when we went rock cotton, remember?
Yeah, remember the little red plate and the big giant handles. The little red plate, you can adjust it so you don't scratch up your pole.
Yeah, and you had people walking behind you, running into the rod butt. Yeah, all day. Yeah, the good old days. We've been doing this for quite a while. So you had kind of a unique summer, right? You got to work with a lot of guys that you spent time talking to on the radios, but you never really spent time on their boats with them. And this year you got to go see a bunch of different operations, right?
Yes, I did. I did this summer. It was a lot of fun for me because I just got to go and just freelance, fill in, and like you said, go through all the different operations, different lengths of trips. A lot of 3 day trips, few day and a half, but mainly like 3 to 8 day trips on various boats, and just to see the operation and to hang out and mingle with people you've never met or seen before.
But you spend a lot of time
You
talking
know,
to them on the telephone and the dispatch and stuff, and then you get to sit down with them in their bridge and see what they're doing, right?
yeah, exactly. See their techniques, see what they listen, see if I hear anything that they miss as we're driving by, but I don't say nothing. Um, oh, that was a fish. Oh, that was a. Oh, wait, what was that? But anyway, that's what's going through your mind the whole time, but for me, it was more fun being with the people down on deck, because you get to hang out with them, and like I said, um, being on a long range boat all those years, you build up a rapport, and it's basically the same people over and over and over and over and over, which is like like a family reunion every trip. Is basically what it was like for me. And then, but now getting to go on all these different boats, different lengths of trips, being exposed to more people, and just it was more like being on a 3/4 day boat for me, just because it's all new people, and just the amount of well, let's sit down and just talk about fish stories, and people have a million questions. What about this? What about that? It was like you just sit down there and you're having like little seminars, but not like a full blown seminar, but you're sitting there and pretty soon you got 8 or 10 people around you, and you're just telling stories, and pretty soon this guy's got a fish story, and then they ask you, what would you do in this situation? Then you start telling them and explaining it to them, and then it was just fun. It was, for me, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well,
Like I said, just hanging out with
it
the
looked
people.
like you were having a ball, and it's always been this way with you. Always smiling. Always. It doesn't matter what's going on. You could be up to your neck in alligators, and you always had a big smile on your face. Always. All the pictures Lauren was posting, always Roy was smiling. Whatever was going on, man, you could see that big smile in that head of hair.
Yeah, and it was usually when there was more alligators, the bigger the smile.
A lot of people, you and I were talking before we went live, a lot of people wanted to find out, is that really your hair? They would get on those boats and grab a hunk and try to pull and see if it was your hat, huh?
Oh yeah, no, I'd say go ahead, give it a yank. It's real. They've always thought it was the visor, so I take the visor off. I go, look, it's not
Not
it's not a hat.
the
Oh yeah.
So, gang, those of you that are new that are watching, you don't know who Roy Rose is. Roy's been in the sport fishing business since he was a little kid, and Roy had the honor to work for one of the legends of the industry for a very, very long time on one of the premier boats. I know the boat you're on right now is top notch. We're not taking anything away from that, but you were the captain of the Royal Polaris for a very long time, and a lot of us in the industry, that was the boat, and you got to be the captain. What was it like the very first time you were leaving the dock and there was no cushion, there was no parachute? You were him.
Yeah. Oh, I know when I first started running the boat that I would never eat until we caught something. And by caught something meant, a substantial amount of fish. So I was a lot skinnier then. I got more comfortable, as you can tell. But I started having to eat a little more. But yeah, it was funny. I'd say about the first 5 years, uh, I wouldn't eat until we caught something. Then after that, that was that. Like you were saying, I was nervous. I got the parachute, first time driving, all that good stuff, and that was just the nerves. Like, you know what I mean? Hey, I don't want to let these people down. I want to go out there. I want to give them the best experience that they've ever had on a boat, and let's go out there and get it done.
Yeah. So, how old were you the very first time Frank gave you the keys?
20. I believe I was 20. 7, I think.
And then how big? Because there's a lot of people that don't know that watch me. How big's the Royal Polaris?
It's 113 feet by 28.
And how many people do you hold on the boat?
When I first started working on there, we would run with 36. 36 passengers, 8 crew members. But now, nowadays people want limited load, so they cut the trips back.
Right.
They don't really go with 35 or 36 people anymore. I've heard stories where when the boat first went in the water, they were running trips with over 40 people, 42 people. Tim was telling me about a trip they ran a long trip with 42 people on there, but I guess they lost a lot of fish that trip, so they trimmed it back to say, hooking that many big fish at one time. I mean, I don't care if you got 8 octopuses working on the deck, it's gonna be hectic.
Yeah.
So, like I said, no matter how good they are, you that's a lot of bodies to
Oh
manage
yeah, a lot of
with
tangles.
that rate of fish biting.
A lot of tangles. Yeah, Gary Black was on my podcast, 6 years ago or something, and he was telling me the first day they ran the qualifier 105, he came out of the bridge and he gaffed an albacore and he threw it on the deck and he asked the guy, "What's your number?" And the guy goes, 105. And he goes, No. I know what the boat is. He goes, "No, what's your staff number?" He goes, 105. And he goes, "Huh?" And he went in the galley and he looked at the list and there was 107 people on the boat.
Holy cow! Yeah, they don't do that
No.
anymore.
But back in those days, albacore, it was amazing. When you went down to Fisherman's Landing at night, there was 1,000 to 2,000 people down there getting on the boats. It was all one day fishing. It was insane. That was back in the beginning of the 80s. It was just absolutely insane.
Oh, I remember being a little kid walking around there. And you look in the parking lot, the tailgating that was going on. That was a show in
It
itself.
was like being at a rock concert.
Oh yeah, for sure. Barbecues, beer, and everything else going on. It was quite a spectacle.
Yeah.
That paid parking cleaned a lot of that up.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. So your very first trip on the RP, how many days was that?
That was a 10-day trip. I went out and Steve Loomis was driving. It was a 10-day trip, and it was a lot of fun. Loomis wasn't. He didn't like. I mean, it was a slow trip, but to me, it was amazing. I mean, we're catching these. We had tuna up to 100 pounds that we had caught at the potato bank, but I mean, all the little fish, like the local things, like for me, local fishing. The main focus was yellowtail, sand bass, whitefish, stuff like that, and we had to fish the beach, so we're fishing Hippolyto, Hutchinson Bank, all those areas, and we're throwing back 6, 8 pound yellowtail, 10-pound yellowtail, throwing them back. 6, 8 pound whitefish. I'm like, oh my God, look at the size of these things. Oh yeah, throw them back. I don't want it. I'm like, what? And there's all these sand bass, 4 to 6 pounds. They're all floating away, throwing them back. There was some pongas back there, that we're collecting them. The ones that didn't, we would pop them and throw them back, but whatever. But I mean, all this, to me, it was cool stuff, and it still is. It's like, these are nice big sand bass. And then the funny part was, when I came back off that 10-day trip, I was on the Mission Bell with Bill Ferris for fishing sand bass 3/4 day, and this guy reels up like a 3-pounder, and I grab the rod and I go to throw it on, and Bill goes, hey, what are you doing? And he runs over and he gaffs it, and he goes, we're not on the Royal Polaris anymore. you're back local. I go, we didn't even see one that small when we were down there. We were just throwing them all over the rail. But he was like, hey, what are you doing? Gap that. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot where I'm at. I'm back in local waters.
That's the jackpot. That's the one with the
Yeah, it actually was the jackpot.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'll never forget that as long as I live.
That is such a great story. As you got into this long range thing, what was the long people? You're going to be blown away. The Royal Polaris was doing. Did you ever do a Clipperton trip with Frank?
Yeah, I've done several of those. I never actually did the longest on there was a 22 day. I think they did one for 23, but close enough.
Talk about Clipperton for a minute, people that are listening. It's kind of a alto out in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah, it's an atoll out and offshore. It's like 1,500 miles south, and it's very hot there. Well, depending on what time of year, but it's pretty hot there, and there's a lot of wildlife that you need to contend with. There's you got your booby birds, you got your sharks, you got the good tuna fishing. Um, you got a lot of birds. You know, it's a neat place. If And it just, like I said, it just depends. Like I said, there's good inshore fishing. That's always been fun. Um, Good blue star jacks, grouper, stuff like that. We usually throw all that stuff back. And then the tuna fishing's a lot of drift fishing. We have caught fish there on the anchor. Very good. I've seen some very good bites on 180 to 250 pound fish on using fly line and skipjack and rainbow runners and stuff. But it's hit and miss like anything else. You know what I mean? It's If you've never been there and you want to go there, it's a nice place to go for me personally. Um, I think I went there like 10 or 12 times. But you know, if you have a bucket list, you want to go and experience all that, by all means, go. If there's a boat that's going down there.
When you get down there, though, if it's an off trip, you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, right?
Well, you are out in the middle of nowhere, but I mean there is other things to. Like I said, there's that if you could get in, and like if the boat you're on, if it had skiffs, that's if, then you could go in there and screw around, fish surface iron and get or poppers and catch jacks. You know, blue stars, amberjack, uh, black jacks, reef fish, catch and release, nice leatherback grouper, cabria, stuff like that. Um, and then then you get lucky if there was some decent bird schools around. Because a lot of times you go there, you got to go off. You got to go off the island 8, 10 miles. Sometimes that's where the main body of fish is, and it just depends on on the operator's mindset. Basically, how when is enough of this? When is enough enough? I mean, because there's going to be a lot of other, like I said, there's going to be sharks. There's going to be porpoise, seal, not seals, but birds and stuff to contend with, and then what the sign of life is, you know.
Right.
Basically, as far as tuna sign goes, there's wahoo there. You can do that, but usually after the first day or two, that's done. You wipe that out, and I've never seen us catch more than maybe 50 in a trip. It isn't a place where you go there and do good on them. You catch some.
Not like going
Um,
to the rock.
but no, like I said, it's a very remote island. It's a ways out there, and like I said, if you were lucky enough to find a boat that'll go out there, and that's on your bucket list, and you know they're going to stay there for a few days, it's someplace cool to experience.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, some of the photos and some of the stuff when Frank first started going down there, it was pretty incredible just to see that. And then what just we're going to get off this subject right now, but just tell everybody what on 1,500 miles one way,
Yes,
the boat
yeah, one
boat
way,
does 9 knots,
like 5 days of travel,
boat doing 9 knots, 10 knots.
9 knots. You got to conserve fuel.
Right. So think about that, gang. How many days just to get there?
Five and a half.
Just sitting there waiting. Do you put the jigs in the water? No.
No,
You don't want to
I
stop.
mean, you don't want to hook up. You don't want to hook up 1,000 pound black marlin and have some guy out there and burn up 5 hours trying to wind it in or break it off.
Right.
we usually put it on course. You know, we get baited up and then we just go. And the boat, we'd have activities. We'd have they would have like various, like one day they had a wine taste, so everybody would bring wine, fancy cheese. Um, they would play games, a lot of cribbage, a lot of uh, had guys bring out their, believe it or not, they would bring out a little piece of a putting green, put it on the bait tank, and knock golf balls in the water for hours. We'd sit up there and knock balls into the sea, you know, just to stay busy.
Something.
A lot of guys get their tackle ready. Um, you know, every day was arts and crafts, getting the Wahoo bombs, getting all the kite gear ready, and redoing all the marauders and all your Wahoo tackle, trolling tackle. So that was always, you know, every day you'd try and do something, try to have something planned, which is kind of like what we do now on the long trips, anyways. But for 5 days, they ended up. There was this thing called. Trying to think, it was called butthole golf. So what they would do is you get 4 quarters, and you'd have to keister them, and then you'd walk over, and then you'd have to drop them into a cup. So it was interesting, but there was prizes.
Just what do you
Um,
see a fish out there in front of you? You guys, Roy's sitting on the beach in front of his house, gang. So he's like me. He sees a fish splash or something. You're right there, right? Right in the water.
oh yeah, no, there's a looked like a bunch of rooster fish or something came through here a minute ago. So that's a bunch of birds started diving, but I got sidetracked. I
No, I
apologize.
knew what was going on. You're just like me. I'm like, oh, there's a splash in the water. What is that? So now think about this. You got 35 years experience on one of the best long range boats in the fleet. And then you and Tim Ekstrom have been buddies since you were kids. And now you're on the Royal Star. You just got completed a 15-day trip with Tim. My dad called him the scientist of fishing. He is the man, right?
Oh yeah, no, it was a lot of fun to get to sit back and watch him fish. You know, firsthand. You know, just to watch him, the way he interprets the meter and his thought process for the fishing, and he's very good about explaining to you or explaining to the passengers, hey, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we see, and you know, which is very important. I do the same thing. We're from the old school. We don't just stop the boat and let them fish. Okay, good luck. You know, cast out. You know, explain to them what we want to see, what the depths are, what the tackle. You know, personally on the longer trips, I always recommend 130 pound, 130 pound, and depending on the wind conditions, um, what size weights to use. You know what I mean? So then it was all basically the same. It was like we're all reading from the same book. You know.
You grew up the same era. You kind of had to know how to explain it to be able to pull it off, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because the better you explained it, the better your catch was. Like I said, you can't just stop and say, okay, here you go. Don't imagine if you left the dock and you never had a seminar, and you just and believe it or not, I've been on a couple boats this summer where there really wasn't much of a seminar on
What you're gonna do?
yeah, yeah. Well, it wasn't in depth on rigging, which is key. Um, so like I said, I usually had everybody rigged up for the absolute. Hey, we're gonna go out there and kick the crap out of them. We're gonna use this bound line. We're gonna do it like this. You're gonna hook the bait like this. This is if you want to be successful. If you want to do it, what the guy at Turner's Outdoor told you, that's fine. But when you want to catch something, try it like this. All right, and it was that's the honest to God's truth. I mean, you go into a stop and you got all 150 to 250 pound fish boiling around, and you got guys going in the water with 80-pound test and even 100-pound test. You're like, well, there's going to be half your fish lost, or even more. It's like, no, we want to take pictures. We don't want to tell fish stories. We want to get a picture of that thing laying on the deck, or at least I do. First thing I want to hear is when that thing gets over the rail is, let me go get my camera. That's it. That's what we want to hear. We don't want to hear, oh shit, that one got away. Oh, I got chewed off. Well, yeah, you were using 80 pounds. Huh. What do you think was going to happen?
Yeah, and old school guys like you, Tim, Frank, you guys have a way better way to explain things than the new guys nowadays, because the new guys nowadays don't really know what I'm sorry, I'm not taking anything away from you new guys. You guys are the greatest guys in the world. Good for you guys. But you old school guys, we have a better way of explaining it, because we're putting the puzzle together in our head, and then we're letting people know what's going to happen when we get there. When we get to where we're going, this is what's going to happen, guys. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen that way, well, at least you were ready.
And
that's it. I mean, it's all in how you're prepared.
And preparation.
You got to be ready.
Preparation's the biggest thing. Something that your new partner did that was cutting edge was started the RSW process. Him and his buddy Randy, those are the guys that started this. Now every boat has RSW, but back in the day, we brought them out. They were as hard as a rock. Popsicles took a week to thaw them out. Now it's pretty bitchin' fish, right?
It's beautiful fish. I mean, it's like that sushi quality that you like those guys over there on the East Coast. They're getting that. If you're able to sell the fish, I mean, it's the same quality. You could be getting $30 a pound or whatever, $10, whatever. It's all, they always come up with these inflated numbers, but you know what I mean. It's just, I mean, on the Royal Star, I mean, which been around RSW since Tim and them started it. But I mean, they even take a big old piece of wire and they run it down the spine, which we've never done, or I've never seen it done. And it was very eye opening. Watch, like I said, let's say here comes a 170 pounder. They gap it, they spike it. Everybody did that. They bled them, all that stuff. That's all what everybody else does. But the extra mile on the Star is when they get this, like a halyard, like say 600-pound test cable, stainless, with the crimp on the end. They run it right down the spine, and you can watch every fin as it passes, as you're running it down the spine. It'll just go boop. It'll just start to vibrate and then just go limp, vibrate, go limp. And then when they run it all the way down to the tail, all the fins are done. The fish is completely relaxed. I mean, and the fish changes the color. It gets a bright blue, and then it's done. You know what I mean? It stops all the muscles from firing, and to dissipate the heat and get the meat to relax quicker and all that stuff, just to get a much better product is what I saw. Because we got done with that trip, and we had that bluefin that we had got in the beginning of the trip, and they texted me pictures from the processing plant. It was absolutely phenomenal. It still had that beautiful trend, like that pearlescence finish on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
and just firm, solid
it
meat.
looks like you dipped it in diesel for a second. It's got that sheen on
it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. Well, Tim been on the cutting edge for a very long time, and I had a nice conversation with him right before you and I talked on the phone, having you on here, and he is super happy to have you as part of the whole system, because he knows your pedigree. You guys grew up together in this industry, so he's super happy to have you with him. And I think all the people that love to fish with you are going to be super happy to be with you over on that rig, because that thing is a beautiful boat, right?
It's very beautiful. It's got good accommodations. Got a very, very knowledgeable, good crew. I mean, like I said, I got on there, and you know, when you get anywhere, you just step back and watch and you know what I mean, just observe and it was perfect, absolutely perfect. Those guys, they were very aggressive. They got it, you know what I mean. They handled everything with absolute perfect professionalism. There was I mean just it was flawless,
And if you got
just to say the least. So very happy about that. I don't, you know what I mean. We basically don't have to say anything. They just get on there and all I need to do is find fish and get down there and help those guys out. I don't have to sit there and micromanage and worry about, hey, you know, did they forget this? Did they forget that? I mean, they're on it. So that he's done a very good job with those guys, and I'm looking forward to fishing with them. They're all very good guys.
Oh yeah, and if you listen to what Roy said a couple minutes ago, gang, those of you that are new to the industry or you've been doing it for 10 years, you think you know everything. If you listen to what Roy just said, he got on the boat and he kept his mouth and Roy's been doing this forever. But he got on the boat, he kept his mouth shut, and he observed what was going on and he asked the questions. He wasn't trying to, I'm Roy Rose, I've been doing this forever. No, because he knew he was with some of the best in the industry. It's fun to learn, right?
Absolutely, and just like I said, I learned I learned about that
That
spine thing.
wire, that's
Yeah, that wire was cool. And like I said, I mean that's another thing. Okay, well, and I looked, they had like 5 or 6 of them coiled up on the back of the tank, and right down, they got them for every grade fish. So that's something new or something that I'll have to learn and get on that.
and then something you said a little earlier in the conversation that we kind of just skipped over. When you got up in the bridge with Tim, gang, I don't care what boat you run. When you get on a different boat, everybody's transducer looks at the fish a little different. Everybody's got their sonar tuned a little different because that's what works for them. So, like you said, and we just kind of said it, but you got up there in the bridge and you listened to what Tim said, and you were paying attention because that boat doesn't fish like the last boat you were on. It's kind of different. The machine's different. Even if it's the same machine, it's tuned in a little different. So I'm just trying to tell you, young guys, you might not know everything, right?
Oh yeah, no, I was because like I said, we had 2 meters going on there, and then one has a chirp on it. And looking at that setup, and I'd never seen that on any on actually when I ran uh, the game changer. Ryan had that on there. It was real nice, but anyway, he had a 295 set up, and then the other one. It was amazing the difference in the type of mark you would see on the 295 as opposed to the way the fish would mark on that chirp. But the because I was used to the 1150 on the Royal, I knew that thing pretty dang good. And like you said about the different types of fish marks or different signatures, and just so I, like you said, we're driving along. I go and I would say, Tim, what size fish do you think that is? And he would tell me, and I'd look at it and I'd say, okay, you know, what size fish do you think that is? Okay, and then we would throw bait, and then it would boil up, and you know, but that way I would know when we're driving around. You know what I mean? Because people ask me, well, what size fish is it? I don't know. Throw some bait and let's see what comes out of the water. You know what I mean? So you know, just from that, you know, aspect, like I said, listening to them, looking at that meter, because I'm going to be using it a lot, and just to get all the guesswork out of the way, because he's already been there, done that. He knows the machines, you know, extremely well. So I'm just gonna ask him, hey, what's that? What do you think? Boom, that's it. That's what it is. It's done. Like you said, would your dad call him the
Yes.
scientist? He's put his time in on those machines,
He
so that's that.
he was always thinking outside the box. He was always been that guy that's been in front of everybody, thinking outside the box. So why wouldn't you take advantage of setting in the bridge with a guy like that? I don't understand these younger generation how they don't walk right over us. They know everything already. It's pretty amazing how they have ability to know everything and never done anything.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
It's okay.
I just I just laugh. Okay. All right.
That's okay, Gabe. Don't
Okay.
worry. Don't send any of the hate to Roy. I said it. Send all the hate to Captain Dave Hansen, your saltwater guide. I'll take all your hate. I'll take it all.
You the haters
Yes,
ball.
indeed.
There you go. You be like Chappelle. There you go.
They have no idea how much I benefit by their hate. It's amazing. They hate the hell out of me. I love it. One thing I wanted to ask you, Roy, if you're going to tie a bait on your line or you're going to tie a lure to your rod, are you going to tie it without a piece of fluorocarbon or are you going to use a piece of fluorocarbon? Please say you're using fluorocarbon. You got
If you use it well, if that's fluorocarbon.
fluorocarbon from Promar, gang. This is the stuff, but you're not going to use 80-pound when you go with Roy, but you might want to try the wind on the 130 or something like that. But you got to have some fluorocarbon, especially if you're fishing up here in Southern California where the fish are very line shy, not like where Roy's going where they'll eat.
Yeah, that's good. You clarified that.
There's a story, Roy, that I heard. I don't remember on Let's Talk Hookup or something where you went down into the engine room and grabbed a socket. You're like, yeah, these fish are so smart. Watch this. And you're catching them on a socket.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's because there was this guy. There was a guy in the boat. And he was bragging about his. He was bragging about his Zucker lure. He paid like $17 for this feather. So he's being kind of a jerk about it. So I go, here, I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a lure out of the tackle, out of the toolbox, and I'm gonna catch more fish than your $20 lure there. So I went. I got a 3/8 socket. There was some old man had like a hoochie in his. I go, let me borrow that lure for the day. Put the hoochie on there. Got a swivel. Put it on the double hook. Shoved it up the. Put it on there. Put the hoochie over it. Then put the socket over the top. And I put it on a boat rod. And all day long, it was the first or the only lure bit. All day long. So then there was a trip Grabowski ran on the Royal. So the same thing. We were screwing around. So I go, check this out. I took a 9mm out and did the same shit. And we caught fish all day long on that. He's like, you got any more of those down there? And I go, nope.
One time,
That's all we got, buddy. We only got one 9mm.
Oh my gosh. So let's talk about your new boat that you're working with Tim and Brian on. You're working on the Royal Star now. When do you start on there again? When's your next trip?
Next trip I'll be going on will be on the in February. Okay. It'll be a 16-day and looking forward to it. I'm hoping Brian's going to be on the trip. Like I said, I've dealt with him for just as long as Tim. You know, been friends forever, acquaintances, radio talk, whatever, but never actually worked together on the same boat. But I'm looking forward to it.
Right. Now,
you know?
How big's the Royal Star? How many people does it hold? Remember, there's a lot of people that aren't in this long range. There's a lot of long rangers watching that know the boat, know everything about it because they love you, Roy, and they want to follow you wherever you go. But tell everybody that doesn't know this boat.
Well, actually, I still need to learn the boat. I believe it's 92 feet wide, long, and I think it's 24 feet wide. I believe. Right. You can check all those specs on the internet, but it holds up to 24 passengers.
Okay.
They do run a lot of more limited load trips on there. It seems like.
Right. And
but it does anywhere from 3 to 16-day trips, 10-day trips in the fall, 8-day trips. A lot of spring trips are 3 days. The early spring are Aleos Rocks type trips where you go fish the yellowtail tuna, stuff like that. But then they get into a lot of 3-day trips, and they do primarily bluefin local fishing like that.
Right. Right. And then there's a lot of people that want to fish with you. They just can call, get on that 15-day trip. Like, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. I know you just got together with Tim and Brian, and you just did a 15-day trip to sink your teeth in there and see what the operation's all about. But if anybody wants to get on that boat, All you got to do is call Fisherman's Landing. Carl or somebody in the office there will give you the whole schedule of what they're doing. And
Yeah, I believe you can look it up on the internet too. The Royal Star Sport Fishing. That's another avenue you could
oh,
do.
absolutely. But how would they know if not that Brian or Tim aren't the best at what they do, but how do we know what days you're on there? Is that going to be on the schedule? Is it going to be on there?
No, Tim, we got to come up with the schedule because, like I said, I'm just getting in there. So he's got to go through the schedule, and then he'll let me know where or whatever trips I'm going to be running, or that I'll be on there, whatever. So he will get all that straightened out, and then you would just ask Tracy when you call the Royal Star office, because she would know.
Yeah, she'll know if you're running the boat. Brian's running the boat. Brian and you might be on the boat. You and Tim might be on the boat.
Yeah, exactly.
No matter who is driving, it doesn't matter. The three of you guys are the wizards. You're not going to have a bad trip with no matter what. You're just not. But I know there's a lot of Roy lovers on here that want to know where you're at. They want to come fish with Roy. And now you've landed on a really bitchin' boat. How rad is that? How does that feel, Roy?
It's nice. It's cool, and I get to work. Like I said, I got a couple little boys that I'm looking forward to spending a lot of time with, and this being on there, it's going to work out perfect.
Yeah, and then you're at your house down in Gonzaga right now. The kids, Christmas, New Year's, you're just having a really good time, right?
Oh yes, oh yeah. This has all been it's worked out very well. It's worked out very well. So I can't complain. Thank God for this, and it's I'm cruising.
Yeah, you are. You're in a really good place right now, and I'm really happy you landed with Brian and with Tim. That's going to be a match made in heaven that will go on for a good long time. Those guys are first class all the way. Like my dad used to always tell me, listen to what Tim says, son. Listen to what Tim says. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I'm listening. He's all, you got to be quiet. Tim's on. Let's talk hookup. We got to listen. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I'm listening, Dad. I'm listening.
Oh, that's good. Well, there you go. You're right.
When Lauren told me you were with Tim, I was like, oh my gosh, it doesn't get any better than that. That's like match made in heaven. Yay.
Yeah, no, we'll have fun for sure.
Mike Lump,
like I said, looking forward to working on there.
Mike Lump's on here. He just said he's happy for you, Roy. He's very happy for you.
Oh, cool, Mike. If you can hear this, hello and thank you.
There it is right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Before we close this thing up, we got a few more minutes. I want to know I wanted to ask you this last time you were on the show. You've seen so much big fish. What do you think? 300-pound bluefin, 300-pound yellowfin, which one's meaner?
Yellowfin.
That's exactly what Frank said when he was on this show. I never caught a 300-pound yellowfin, so I don't know. I just know those 300-pound bluefin are really a-holes.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's funny because, think of it this way. You've got guys landing 300-pound bluefin on a little 2-speed reel the size of a Pin 500. I don't know all the different makes and models, but they're small reels, and it's light line. It's so and so caught one on 100-pound on a JX whatever Raptor on took him 40 minutes. It's like, dude, if you hooked a yellowfin in warm water that size, you wouldn't have any line left. It's that simple. They would just go and run away until he took everything.
Yeah, you back in the old days, you guys used to throw a rod over the side, right?
Oh, yeah, we'd clip it onto a buoy. The guy's getting spooled when he was down about his last 100 yards. That thing wasn't stopping. We'd clip it on there and put the other reel, clicker on, light drag, throw it over the side, and let it swim away. Put the other reel in full and hope for the best. But that was, again, those guys that would be using 80-pound tests and 60-pound tests. Half the time when you threw the ball in the water, the line would break from the pressure of the other rod and reel going in. when they're using too light a line. As a rule for the backup, it would be 60-pound test minimum. But I mean, still, that was a joke. I mean, yeah, we did land some fish, but a lot more of them swam away.
With a whole bunch of line
And
hanging off of them.
yeah, and again, that was the advantage. That's what's been the great advantage of this Spectra is, 100-pound Spectra is smaller than 60-pound mono or 60-pound mono. So I mean, you can hold a lot more line on a reel. You can double your line capacity and give you that much more time to try and stop that fish. Depending on how far from the boat you hooked it. But I mean that's another thing. Even now with Spectre, a lot of these guys will do a long soak and they've already got half their spool out. I tell them, hey, you need to wind that thing in because you get bit, he's gonna take the other half. And you tell that to people and they don't comprehend it. But I mean, even at Guadalupe, sitting there and you got a knot and a half of current, you guys are fly lining, and before you know it, the guy's 3/4 of a spool down, and a 100-pounder will take the rest of the line.
Yeah.
So that's things guys need to pay attention to is how much line is already out and whatever they're targeting, what the potential is or what it can do once you hook whatever you're after. Because like I said, once they get ahead of steam going, you don't get that rod bent. That's there goes the rest of the line. A lot of people have a bad habit of they hook a fish and then they just point the rod at the fish. They don't bend it.
Well, that's hard.
They need to bend that rod. All they need to do is bend it. That's what all those double X's, triple X's mean. Is you got to bend the rod, put it in your gut, put it on the rail, bend it, and that will stop the fish from swimming 90% of the time. Because that's all we're gonna do to it. We don't have any magic. We just bend the pole and make him fight the rod, not just the drag, not just the reel. Because if you don't, there's no pressure on him. He's just gonna swim. It's just gonna run until you bend the rod. Once you bend the rod, now he starts to feel it, and then you leverage against him to stop him.
Yeah, exactly.
But until you pull, there goes all your line, and there comes the backup.
You repeat that 100 times a day on the boat, and I did it 100 times a day. It's bend the rod. You're not hunting, you're fishing. Stop pointing it at the fish. Bend the rod.
That's it. It's not a gun. It's not a rifle.
But they love to point it at them because it's hard to bend the pole, Roy. You know that. It's hard.
Well, if you want to keep all your lines.
And then
that's the number one way to stop it.
I want to end with this just so you understand Roy's mentality. If he can piss a puddle and I saw him piss it, we're both going to fight over who gets to cast into it first. That's kind of where we're at in our lives. Roy, just before he went live on the show, gang, he was fishing with his kids right out in front of his house on the beach. What does Roy do when he's not fishing? He goes fishing, right? There he is. That's where he lives, gang. That's where his house is, down in Gonzaga Bay. Isn't that beautiful? It's spectacular, buddy.
Oh yeah, we'll be out there again in a few minutes.
What do you think? Calico bass fishing. That's my very most favorite fish to fish for.
What do I think about it? I love it. We got a whole new area that one of these days you'll need to go back and fish with us. I mean, this is on a multi-day boat. Towards the end of the trip, we fish a lot on the way up the coast and do very well. A lot of nice bass. A lot of 4 to 6, 8-pound calico bass. A lot of fun light tackle, catch and release. A lot of good. You would really enjoy the heck out of it, as much as you like calico bass.
Yeah,
I got some places I could take
you. I bet you do, buddy. I'll bet you do. Well, I know you want to get back with your family. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time out of your busy life to hang out with me for an hour. We had a bigger than last time. The audience is way bigger this time. It's humongous. We got 80 people watching on Facebook alone, Roy, and we got probably somewhere around 20,000 views already on our podcast just for today. This is insane. People love to listen to you, buddy.
Wow. Well, that's nice. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and thank you for letting me hang out
Yeah,
with
my
you.
pleasure. And we'll bring you back on here as your season starts along and how you start to put stuff together on the Royal Star. We're looking forward to seeing your life. And Lauren, thank you so much for letting me take your husband for an hour. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And now he can go back to helping you round up all those little kids running all over the beach right there.
Oh yeah, I got one just showed up.
Hey,
Say hi, Well.
what's up, my man? How are you?
He just took off. He's going to get his Promar net. Now he's got his Promar net in his
There
hand.
you go, gang. Check out the Promar website. Today's the last day. You got 15% off. It's going back to 10 tomorrow. You got till midnight tonight. Look at, he's right there digging with his Promar net in the sand. Him and Dad are going to go get a bunch of fish tonight on the beach. It's going to be insane.
Oh yeah, he's ready. He just brought me a bucket and the net, so he's ready
Yeah,
to
he's
go.
like, Dad, are you done yet? Come on, let's go.
Yeah, get out that phone already.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Everybody, Happy New Year. We will see you next year tomorrow at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We'll be on the show. And I got Wayne. Wayne Coda is going to join us on Friday. He's 100% retired starting tomorrow, but he's not retired. He's going to be still helping us keep fishing open for everybody. And I know you're a good friend of Wayne. And Mike Dunn's on
Yeah,
here.
heck
Thank you,
yeah.
Mike, for everything you do for our industry and everybody. And Roy, good luck, buddy. I hope you have a fun time down there. We'll talk when you get home.
All right, buddy. You got it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys
All right,
later.
everybody.
Everybody have a happy, safe New
See you.
Year.
Happy New Year.